Hi, friends and family. Today, I'm going to hold back the tears because this episode is going to talk about our program, Aspire. 11 years in the making, it's finally ready for release to the public. So come on back to the couch and let me share this amazing opportunity with you.
Welcome to Pam and the Purple Couch podcast, hosted by Pamela Furr, with our co-hosts, Dr. Manny Rodriguez, Missy Owen, and Loki Bristow. Together, we're going to dive deep into topics such as education, neurodiversity, autism, and applied behavioral analysis. Remember to click subscribe today so you don't miss out on any future episodes.
Hi, friends and family, and welcome back to Pam and the Purple Couch podcast. Today is an amazing day for the three of us sitting here on the couch. We are so excited because, well, it's been 11 years. 11 years since we saw a need in the education sector, and I wouldn't even say just education for our kids. We saw the deficit, and when I say we, it's parents. The parents that helped me open Puzzle Box Academy. We were all struggling 11 years ago because there was a broken system that didn't specialize in our children. And when I say our children, I'm talking about our neurodivergent population. I'm also talking about the teachers, the caregivers that were struggling. Why? Because the administrators that get about 60% of all your funding that go into your school, well, they sit in the office. They're not in the heat of it. They're not there with 22, 23, and now 29 kids with a teacher trying to teach 5 to 7 different variables all in one lesson. How do you do it? And then how do you go home and not feel burnt out from taking care of other people's kids? How do you go home and still have energy to take care of your kids? We want some of the best teachers here in the United States and worldwide. Why? Because they're going to be teaching our future generations. So how do we help them? Well, we saw the need.
Sure did.
What did we do?
We created the future. We created the way it should be.
I think your best thing was the science-based model.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what we're talking about here is a scientific approach to learning.
Yes.
And advancing learning for all. And it's unlike anything you've seen. You know, most people, they can talk about it conceptually. You know, you should use science. You should use science-based tools. But how you actually apply it, how you put it in the hands of teachers and educators, people that have been trained traditionally, right? And we use traditionally in quotes because it's pretty much, here's your curriculum of how to be a teacher. But then they go into the classroom and about 100% of all teachers say what in their first few years? I don't know what I'm doing.
I didn't learn that. That wasn't in the books.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The experience that you gain being an actual teacher in the classroom is nothing like what you're taught in school.
No.
And so when you come across all these different types of individual kids with neurodiversity or even neurotypical, how do you blend it all together to make it work? And as a teacher, you get that burnout. You get that, what am I doing wrong? And then you beat yourself up day in and day out trying, am I meeting this kid's needs? Am I working correctly with this kid? But in this program, you're right, it's science evidence-based because we've seen the proof.
Yes.
And it works.
Yes.
And it's not, what's also amazing for me about our program is that in traditional education, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I also learned a lot from my own sister, who's a teacher of now 30 years. And she'll say, and she quit after the first 5 because she was burnt out. And then she went back.
Gotcha.
And one of the things that she always was frustrated about in public school and everything, because that's where she teaches, is you're teaching to a curriculum. You're teaching to get through the curriculum. And what we're doing with Aspire is we're not teaching to get the curriculum done. We're teaching to get that kid to be successful in the curriculum.
There's no pacing.
Teaching them to learn.
There's no pacing guides. We don't have an agenda we have to meet. We are individualizing it for each kid because how else are we going to get our classroom to work? If we're teaching step by step, day by day, and our kids aren't getting it, we're just pushing them through the system, and that's why those gaps are happening, and that's why we're seeing such a deficit in our education programs.
Yeah.
I love this. I saw the passion coming out of her. The deficits our kids are facing. So, but it's true. So what we're talking about, Aspire, we have developed an online module that caregivers, teachers, daycare providers, parents, you can go online and you can learn our teaching modalities that we have been using for 11 years at Puzzle Box Academy. Yep, that's right. We did it, and knowledge, like I've said here on the couch, should be available to everyone. So not only are we bringing it to the public, we're bringing it to the public in an affordable manner. Yeah. Now, what is Aspire? Aspire is a teaching methodic classroom management training module. I was going to say, I think that's the best way to put it together. It is not curriculum. No. You could use any of your books at home. You could use workbooks that you've bought, from the local.
The McGraw-Hills.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We don't want to name drop because none of them
exactly.
are sponsoring this. But, the McGraw-Hills of the world, all the different curriculums.
Not just that, your big super shoppers, we don't want to drop names again, but any of those that have parent workbooks. Yep. A lot of parents, especially in the Midwest, we're seeing it even more in New York. A lot of our coastal states, too, are homeschooling now.
Right.
So with these options of homeschooling, how do you prepare the parents at home so that the kid is successful? Or if you're in a public school situation and the teacher's overwhelmed because she has 29 kids all trying to learn the same material and you need to supplement at home, which I do not believe any child should have to supplement learning at home. PamelaFurr.com, we will advocate for your child. We're all sitting here and we laugh because, guys, most of our kids that are in a public school setting right now come home with 2 to 3 hours of homework.
It's crazy. I can't imagine that. Sitting every night after being in school all day and and then parents don't know the curriculum either, so they're helping.
Correct.
And then the kids are going back to school. No, homework I totally disagree with those hours of afternoon.
I got another one. What about the parents that have worked 12 hours?
Exactly.
Because we all know finances are rough. But you do that, and then what? You've got to come home, and now it's time to put your teacher hat on and sit down and make sure that your child is attaining and learning the material.
Yeah.
Not just are you sitting down doing your homework? Nope, let's turn the Xbox off. Let's not be on the PlayStation. Let's get off the Wii. See, I covered all of them. But you have to do that on top of, now it's time to make dinner, and now let's go back through spelling words and really, and
not forget, and if they have a quiz or a test the next day, is making sure.
So what have we implemented into our kids? School now is something that they don't want to go to.
Correct.
Right.
And it becomes aversive. Instead of school should be an opportunity to learn and grow. And I really think Aspire brings that because it's not that typical environment where you're forcing it down them. You're promoting that positivity for them. They want to learn, and it's individualized for them.
Well, and we're setting them up for success.
Absolutely.
Our program teaches in a methodology so that the child always feels they're making gains. And right now, that's beneficial because we're not beating down the kid. So it's almost like the always right answer. Why? Because you are going to be overcorrecting so that they're not making those wrong answers, so that they don't feel, I just don't know this information. I've been beat down. I don't know where I'm going. Oh my goodness, I hate school. and I do that physically. For those of you that don't see what I'm doing on the video, is I'm actually crouching down on the couch. Why? Because that shows the representation of what the system is doing to our kids. It is a weight, a heavy weight that just keeps the family down. When before 3rd grade, every child should get up in the morning and be like, okay, Daddy, let's go. Let's go. Mommy, come on. I want to go see my friends.
Kids are more than a test score. And that's the biggest thing for me, is that we get to see their potential every day. And it doesn't matter what they get on a test. We can see the gains and the growth day to day over time. And their self-esteem, their enthusiasm, their willingness to want to learn. It's their motivation. We're not, it's not the school telling them what they have to do. They want it.
Yeah.
And that's what Aspire, I think, really brings to the environment, to the teachers. It's no longer that they have to meet a test score.
Yeah. Well, and you get burnout. We talked about it. You just brought it up with your sister.
Yep.
And I want to make a very bold statement here. Right now, if you go into Dr. Google or look up any of the AI, you're going to see teacher shortages across the United States. There's no teacher shortage. No. We just undervalue, underpay, and disrespect the teachers that want to serve our kids. Let's be real on that. If we started taking better care of our teachers, our providers, we would have an ample number in order to serve our kids. But we've got to make those changes. So what we did was we formulated what we've been doing at Puzzle Box, because we can't build a puzzle box everywhere. And again, being an advocate for public school, we shouldn't have to.
Right.
I mean, technically, you get me on my soapbox outside of the couch, I'll tell you a long story. We shouldn't have had to build puzzle box. The public school should have been able to offer our neurodivergent children these opportunities. That's part of our system. And that's why it's broken, because we're not serving all of our children. You know, having the Fair Education Act comes in allowing that free and equal education should be for all of our students.
Absolutely.
But we can't do that if we're not taking care of the teachers, if we're not taking care of the caregivers. So that's what we've done, guys. Aspire helps you, the caregiver, the parent, the teacher, learn how to teach that lesson in multiple different ways without burnout. Wouldn't you like to take your class and go home at the end of the day and be like, wow, I still have all my energy? You know, between the teaching methodics, the classroom management styles, and the OBM, because that's really what it comes in. We can talk about, you know, how does ABA work, but within the methodics, Manny, I think the OBM model is really, and that's where Dr. Manny shines, I just want to let you know. But at Puzzlebox, all of our teachers are trained with the applied behavioral analytic materials, research, data. How does that work? How do we build on this? How do we take a child and we start with the small and build to these large skills? All of our teachers are trained that way. But not everyone has access to Dr. Manny or some of the BCBAs that we have that give that information to our staff. So how do you get those core principles and learning modalities along with teaching methodics? Because for those of you all that are not aware, who didn't go and get a teaching degree, classroom management is not taught. There is not a class you take in school. There is no book you can open up and says, well, here's the curriculum, and now this is how you give it to 25 kids in the class. If we actually have ever gone first day of teaching, and I'm going to go and we both reminisce from years ago, but go back into those moments, and I was about to say memories, but I want to go back to moments. That's all stress and anxiety, because when you first walk into your first classroom, it's probably the way you did with your first client, is you're like, okay, all right, well, I need you all to get to know me. I need to get to know you, and we're just going to take it by the wayside. Whatever comes at me, I'm going to deal with. That's what teachers do.
Super nerve-wracking.
And even year to year, because you get a whole different group of kids. Right? So you don't know what to expect. But I think, like you said, classroom management isn't something that can be taught in a book. This is what this happens. This is when you do this. You evolve it, right? And that's what Aspire is. It's evolved. We've taken all of those best things that we've learned throughout the years, especially for our kiddos, and we've applied ABA, background to it, and we've shown that it works. And at the end of the day, we go home and we're not super stressed. Yeah, we have those moments, of course. Nothing is, never a perfect day, but you have a system in place that you can fall back on. It's consistent. It's not something that you can, today I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'll try this. If you are consistent with it, everything in the classroom pans out because the kids are motivated. They're the ones that want to do, they have those expectations. They're held accountable. And it teaches a lot more than just, okay, we're sitting correctly in our seat. We're not, it's a community.
Yes.
It's a classroom community.
Well, it's funny you brought the community part up, because not only do we do the teaching modalities in there and the OBM, which is organizational behavioral management. Sorry, we just talk in acronyms so easily, but it is getting you in line. And Manny, you can elaborate better than I can on this, but if you can talk to our families a little bit about how those procedural steps, just like all of a sudden, change management. That's the biggest one for me, because I'm a mover and shaker. If I see something that's broken, I'm going to be like, okay, boom, 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 it's done. Okay, keep going. Well, a lot of people can't handle that. No. That's too much for them. I would rather, okay, let's rip the Band-Aid off. I'm the Band-Aid ripper. But that's not everyone's style.
Yeah, we're talking about, we've kind of alluded to things, right? So with Aspire, we're teaching principles and concepts of ABA, right? Because we've recognized that something that's very different in Puzzlebox Academy compared to others is that underlying knowledge and skill of applied behavior analysis. Because in the public school system, you get one kid maybe with a neurodiversity and everybody else is neurotypical. Right. And the teacher's already like, oh my God, what do I do? Add in 2, 3, 4, half a dozen, right?
Well, remember Loki's first grade teacher? I don't know what I'm going to do. I have 4 of them in my class.
4 of them.
Four of them.
And, yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
And
Great.
so, but then you look at it from the teacher's perspective, they weren't prepared. They weren't ready, right? So we added that bit. So here's some ABA 101 for you, 102, 103. Then classroom management, which you hit the nail on the head, right? Teachers are not equipped for that in their first, they're coming out of school. Here's a classroom, go ahead.
Yes.
And go ahead and throw one kid that's hyperactive, one kid that's disobedient or doesn't want to do things, right? One unmotivated child.
Just one.
Just one in a classroom of 20, and you got a teacher freaking out, right? Most of the time.
Yeah.
So let's add some classroom management, some real sound structural things. On the organizational behavior side, well, that's the administration side of things, right? So whether you're a caregiver you're managing the homeschool program for your kids, right?
Exactly.
You are the administrator of your program. Whether you are a principal, a vice principal, a district superintendent, you're the owner and operator of a private school. Whatever the case may be, how do you make it work? How do you implement the structure of the classroom management? How do you implement the use of applied behavior analysis? How do you use the things we haven't even talked about yet, which is the methodics of teaching?
Yes.
So how do you do that in a structural way? So what OBM teaches us is, well, similar to science, similar to ABA in a classroom where you're working with one child, let's use the same science and apply it to the entire infrastructure of your system.
You got it.
So OBM teaches us about using data to be our guide. Getting the
One
buy-in.
moment.
Go ahead.
If you don't have the data, it didn't happen.
Right? And I think a really good important thing too in this overall Aspire problem is the support. Right? So it's a support for a teacher.
Yes.
It's support for the students. It's support for the family. So in a typical environment, how often does a principal, vice principal, superintendent actually step into a classroom? Right? So in our model, right? That's part of the administrative part of it, is we are hands-on in it with our staff.
Right.
Yes.
Because we want them to be their best so their kids can be the best. And in doing that, we're making them out, we're available to them. And that's a really key important part to Aspire, is that we just don't, okay, here you go, figure it out.
Right.
We're hands-on in it. Whether you're homeschooling, private school owner, a teacher, all that, you have the tools necessary to get in there and see for yourself what needs to be, to work on.
Yep.
And for our public school teachers that may not have the administrators that will take that step with you, we have a community platform within our Circle MindMeld program.
Yeah.
So Aspire is the name of our program within MindMeld. And the reason we call it MindMeld is because we want a community of teachers, caregivers, parents, of sharing, of people that are there sharing their stories and supporting each other. Absolutely. So not only do you get this entire program, but you also get access to the community of amazing people supporting our superstars. And that, to me, I think is the biggest piece. Because as a parent, that was the part that was missing so much when I was going through this with Loki. It was, who can I talk to that actually knows what I'm dealing with? Who can I talk to that knows, okay, yes, my kid doesn't scream like other kids. My kid doesn't have tantrums, but he doesn't want to play with anyone. He is in his own world. He won't hug me. I don't get affection. Am I doing something wrong? These are things that parents all talk about. Or I was that mom that he went to school for socialization because he wasn't learning anything academically in public school. And I'm sure parents, you're also doing that. How many hours of homework are you sitting at the table with your child? It destroyed us because it was a point that I would have to be the disciplinary teacher and put my teacher hat on at home every single night after working, after dealing with everybody else's kids, and then coming home. And so how many teachers are out there doing that?
Right.
How many teachers already see their child is struggling in their own school that they may be teaching in, and then they have to come home, and when do they get to take the work hat off?
Yep.
So we're giving you some tools so that you can not only take that hat off and feel supported and comfortable with your own children, but also children that may not be your own, and how to put this within your classroom. As we're preparing with our IEP advocation, I think that the timing of this couldn't come better. I'm so angry with our school system right now just because I know how many children are being underserved. You know, we talk about support systems in the public school system, and not just public school. Let's think about private schools. You know, parents, if you're paying tuition to have your child at a private school, then you need to make sure that the core values are being instilled within your child and that the curriculum is being instilled. But we still even have parents today that, oh, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to rock the school. Oh, they may take it out on my kid if I say something to the teacher. You know, so even in this program, the knowledge base that parents get, give them the tools to be able to sit down and have those conversations with educators that may not be as well versed. So if you come to a teacher with information showing that you've actually taken the initiative, you're going to watch the conversations flow a little bit differently. And they will most definitely change once you get to the IEP table. Because now you know some of these key terms. You understand the data. You need to be able to say, okay, well, that's great. Junior jumps up and down all day long. Right. Well, how many times an hour is he doing that? Oh, well, you know, we're just estimating. Oh, is that your opinion? We don't listen to teacher opinions, do we? No, because they're too close to the child. So where's the data? Data doesn't lie. You know what I'm saying? Numbers don't lie. Well, unless you got a shady accountant that kind of smudges them a little. But we're going back to making sure that our parents and our caregivers know the terms, because that'll make or break a conversation. I mean, think about it. If we're talking about a child who's having maladaptive behaviors, you know, if a parent's not educated, they're like, okay, well, Johnny's just having some behaviors. And I'm like, okay, well, what's maladaptive behaviors, you know? Or what is he self-inflicting? What? Oh, he bites himself all day long. Okay, well, mom, that's stress, okay? That's a comfort. This is something that the child is doing for automatic sensory, you know? But giving the parents, giving the caregivers these tools, this is what we're talking about, because knowledge is power.
And again, it goes back to the very core of why we're doing Aspire, is to benefit the kids. Right. So when all is said and done, why do we collect data? Why do we have the administrative side of the Aspire program? Why are we educating teachers that are already educated as teachers, but we realize there's a gap in their education? Why are we doing this? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to help the kids.
1 in 34. Isn't that what the number is now? 1 in 34. That's for ASD. That's only autism spectrum disorder.
It doesn't count everything else, ADHD, all the other things that are going on, and have them combined.
Yes.
Right? So how, as a teacher, you only see just a snapshot, right? But having that community with those parents, getting that good feedback, having parents understand, you're right, it's going to benefit the kids much better than it just being, they're a number, they're a kid in my class, this is all I know, right? Having that wide community with everybody, we're able to get the most individualized education. And in a sense, we're building their IEPs. We're building their environments based off of special education instead of just being pushed into a general education classroom.
I love that. We're gonna come to the couch with that information. So Tracey's giving you some tidbits on what we have been learning as we are preparing to come out here and fight for all of our kids. We're going nationwide. Here in the next couple months, you'll be able to reach out to both Tracey and I to help advocate for your child. And it doesn't matter if you're in Florida, if you're in New York, if you're in Maine, if you're in Texas, we're going to be able to support you and your child, no matter what state you are in the United States. So we've got some things we're working on that, because the more we find out and the more information we get, the angry mamas come out, the talons come out. You know, the first thing we did was call Manny. It was like, Manny, we need to talk about your kid's IEP. We're going to make some changes here, man. We're going to get him some support services. You know, why? Because if we're doing that in our own homes, with our own friends and family, can you imagine how we could help you and your child? I need all the parents and caregivers to understand that you are not alone. That is the biggest part of Aspire. You know, you asked me earlier, why isn't everyone doing this? It's not cheap. When we went and brought in the specialists to help us build this program, it was not, It wasn't, let's just go to the weekend training. You know, this was 5 years in the making. And then after the 5 years of the proven model training, then we had to make it our own because that was for neurotypical children. This was the training that MMGI, that I will give full credit to Morningside Academy, a shout out to Andrew and Kent. They were amazing with our team, invaluable.
I going into it, I was a different teacher. Never thought I could teach. Nope. Are you going to make me do this? No way. Can't do it. I cannot think of any other way to teach now. And the gains and now being able to adapt it to our population of students really has made it, you know, our own. And the gains that we're seeing, it's amazing. Kids that couldn't read, kids that hated coming to school, kids that couldn't even pick up a pencil to write, kids that, you know.
Well, why don't we talk about it? Most of the kids that came to us when we were doing this had already been beat up in the public school system. The parents were in crisis. So having them come to us already with this, I don't want to come to school. Are they going to bully me? You know, the parents are like, oh, am I going to get called every day at lunchtime to come pick up Johnny or Sally? These were all things that we were living. It was live. And so just those modalities coming in to say, oh, well, we're going to teach you a completely different way to teach your kids. So we did that for 5 years. And when we're talking about 5 years, Tracey can tell you it was 5 years of every quarter, week-long trainings. On top of that, the Zoom calls. And then once we mastered those methodologies, then it was like, okay, well, that's for neurotypical students. Our students are superheroes. So we got to take it up another notch. And that's what we did. And so now 11 years, Aspire's coming to their homes.
Super awesome.
So why are we doing this? Manny hit it. We're doing it for the kids. There's no other reason except for our kids. So if you had one comment that you wanted to give to our families, Tracey, what would it be? This is our new thing we've been doing here on the couch, and our parents love it. So if you have one aspiration that you would give, or one, you know, kudo over to our families about what's coming, what would you say?
There's hope, and don't give up. Just because you see your student maybe not learning the way that others think they should learn, they can learn. We just have to individualize it for them. And this Aspire program does that. So it's really important to remember that it's not a one-size-fits-all. And it's exciting. So I hope they come and join the Aspire community, because it's something that they can definitely grab onto. And it's not just, it just doesn't end. It can continue on.
And Manny, what are you bringing to the couch?
Well, for me, I think if you've ever been a parent that has stumbled or hit a wall with your child in the school system, whatever school system it is, and you've asked the question, is there a different way? Is there a better way for my kid to learn this stuff? The answer is yes. And where a lot of people might say, well, they just got to work through it. Right? And working through a wall, if you've ever tried to do that, it's a wall, right? It's most walls, you're going to need a sledgehammer. Well, I think this is the sledgehammer. I honestly think that what they have to learn is that there is another way to learn. There is another way to grow. And don't allow the wall to affect you. Don't allow the wall to just sit there. Be your sledgehammer for your child and look for it.
I love that. Be your sledgehammer. I'm such an 80s kid, because like there's a song in my head right now. I can see it happening. So guys, I want to first say, if you found this episode exciting, we are just like filming this, and I am so ready to bring it to your house. Please click the like button and the subscribe button. But more importantly, we want you to look at the comments below and come visit us at Aspire. We are here to support you. You're never alone. As long as you got Pam and the Purple Couch, we're coming to your house. See you soon.